Hi, my name's Sam. I just wanted to share my story with you. So my father came over from India to live in England and he met my mum. And at first, that marriage and the way things were seemed really idyllic, and the way that they were together. They'd have my elder sister and myself, and it was a beautiful place to live and everything seemed to be going really well. But what happened was my father became very depressed, became very sad, and felt very isolated. He missed his family a lot. He'd left behind a very big family and he just wanted to be with them again, but he couldn't be. He had to be where we were. So this sent him into a great pool of depression and sadness, which we were shielded from somewhat, but they started getting involved. My mum and my dad started getting involved in the occult and getting involved in Ouija boards and things like that. And they just got involved and things started to happen in our house. We used to have people around the house and things used to move. Very, very frightening things happened. And I remember feeling so fearful, both myself and my sister. And my father just spiraled really into a state of terrible depression till eventually he just decided to end his own life. About a year after my father committed suicide, my mum ended up getting married again to somebody that both my sister and myself didn't really like. He was very, very different from our father. My father was very hands-on, would kiss our heads, would hug us, would look after us, and as we were growing up. But this man seemed very, very different. He seemed very strict, very orderly, very cross and different, and we just didn't find him very nice at all. So to us, when he got married to my mum, it just felt really bad. It just felt really awful. It felt uncomfortable. It affected my sister very badly because when she was 15, she ended up getting pregnant and getting married to somebody, and really it was just wanting to escape from that house. So at 11 years old, our family moved to Bristol, leaving behind my sister and a new husband and a new baby. And that's the first time in my life that I'd ever been separated from a sister. She was always the one who helped me, who looked after me, who encouraged me, who held me up really. She was my support and my strength. And I had to say goodbye to her and leave her behind. And that was the hardest thing I'd ever done. As I was in Bristol, I met new friends, new people. It seemed like a good place to be. I met people who were also struggling with things in their lives, and so we all ended up getting involved in the occult in some way or the other. Fortunately, I'd say nothing really happened to either of us or any of us in that little group, but there was always this thing, there's got to be something beyond where we are now that we were looking for, and I was definitely looking for that, but I didn't know where to look. So at 14 years old, we moved up to the north of England again, but this time to a place called Blackpool. It was a seaside town. It was a very difficult time for me because I'd already moved from the village I was in to a new place in Bristol to back up to Blackpool. Suddenly, I started not wanting to eat. I started not wanting to be with people, and I developed something called anorexia nervosa, which is a slimmer's disease that robs you of not just your body, but also your mind and your thoughts and your whole being, really. It just seemed to control everything. It felt those dark clouds were even more dark at this point, and and I couldn't get myself out of how I felt. So at 17 years old, my stepfather, my mum and my younger sister, because I had a little sister by then, and they all moved to Cornwall, start a new life again for them. My dad got a new job, it seemed like it was right, and I felt great, away from home, do my own thing, 17, things are great. I still suffered with anorexia, I was still troubled by that, but things started to change and pick up in my life at that point. I started to get involved in nightclubs and going out partying, enjoying friendships. I loved it. We were out all night, 4 or 5 nights a week, enjoying the nightclub life. I got into dancing and actually found that I was quite good at it. But something inside was missing still. There was this feeling of sadness and upset. It didn't seem to tick all the boxes. So at 19, I moved to Cornwall to try and get away from that old life. even though I seemed to have everything and I seemed to have the boyfriend of my dreams, it wasn't really like that in reality. The truth of the matter was we were very destructive for one another. He took speed, drank, he became very jealous. It felt like the only stable thing, even though it wasn't a good stable thing to have, that was just right in my life. But yet inside I just felt it was time to just end that relationship. It crushed me, and to the point of where I thought, actually I've got nothing else to live for. I didn't know what to do, where to go, but I just decided that when I got to my sister, I'd do something about it. And I'd seen some tablets on her shelves, and I thought, when everybody's in bed, I'm going to take the whole lot and that'll end it all. The clouds that were over my life felt so dark, so grey, and no way out. I felt like I was absolutely soaked through with just the feeling of dread and sadness and fear. I just couldn't stand the thought of living. But actually, suddenly came into that thought was a voice. I didn't know where the voice had come from, but I just remember the words are very clear. Said, don't take those tablets in the morning, you'll be fine. And I actually have no idea what happened. I don't know where the night went. It just seemed like to pass very, very quickly. Inside came this feeling of I need to go back to Blackpool. I have to go back. My family were really against it because they thought, what is she doing? She's going nuts. She's actually starting to go crazy. She's come from that situation. It's really bad. So why is she going back there? But I just couldn't help it. I was just felt like this pull and this propelling towards going back there. So what happened was I moved up to my friend's house, and she had a Christian boyfriend at the time, somebody who knew God, and he would tell her things about God, and she would tell me about things he said to her about God. And I thought, okay, this is a bit weird, but I think, okay, fair enough. And one day he said to her, I want you to come along to a meeting. And she said, you come too. I was dragging my feet. I remember not wanting to go, thinking it's going to be really crusty and people are going to be miserable and boring. But actually when I got in there, it was completely different. There was this feeling of warmth and light and joy, and people were really friendly. So suddenly this man got up to speak, and he started talking about having a personal relationship with God. And I just thought, what is that? I'd been places and thought, is God here, is God there? But somehow God seems so far away. How can you have a personal relationship with God? How can you know God? And this is how he's speaking, like he knew God and knew who he was. And I just thought, this is really unusual. But something inside me was starting to listen and wanted to hear what he had to say. And what he said represented how my life had been. And he actually had an umbrella put up. He suddenly put an umbrella up that was shut. And he said, when you haven't got God in your life, it's like this umbrella, it's shut, and all the wet and the storms of life just come against you, and you feel like you are soaked through and completely numbed to anything, and your life just feels empty. And I knew he was speaking to me directly into my heart. And then he put this umbrella up into the air, and he just said, when the storms of life come, when you have God in your life, they still hit, but you have protection and you have someone with you. And I knew, and I thought, that's what I need. I felt like in my life I'd just been completely soaked through with misery and sadness and not knowing where to go and no answers. And he spoke about Jesus dying on the cross for our sin, our shame, our sadness, our sickness and our sorrows. I had nothing to lose, and I remember jumping out of that seat almost and running down the aisle saying, I want to know this God that you're talking about. Something changed in me that day, something I can't put into words. It's not because of the nice music or the nice people or even the words. Something happened because I came to know Jesus, and I didn't feel alone anymore. That sense of loneliness and sadness that I'd felt for so long suddenly changed, and those storm clouds, those feelings of darkness suddenly were lifted off me. I felt like something had happened. I I just started eating more. I just began to eat more. I didn't even think about what I was eating. I wasn't considering what I was eating. I wasn't even counting the calories of what I was eating. I just knew that it was okay. I was totally free. This feeling of freedom was something I could not explain. And I couldn't help but tell other people just what had happened to me. And if you're listening to this and you're wondering how you can know God as your Father and to set you free from things you've been maybe difficulty with in your life, whether or not it's like I was, who had anorexia, had different things, it doesn't matter. Please just ask God. I'm asking you, pleading with you really, that you need to know Jesus. He is calling your name and he knows who you are. So just reach out to him, ask him to come into your life and change it, and he will. He'll be right there with you.